hello, hello. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Sweet Release Healing's Roundtable. I am Andrea Lovett of Sweet Release Healing, and tonight we have with us Kaylee, Spencer, and Jenny, as well as our amazing producers, Sharon and Morgan. Tonight's topic is, drum roll please, just kidding, that would be annoying. We do it anyhow. Our favorite folklore / mythology that will lead wherever we want it to lead, but our favorite one. Who wants to go first? Kaylee does. She raised her hand. Kaylee does. Go, Kaylee.
So, I have a giant book filled with all kinds of things. And my favorite one is the jack-o'-lantern. So there's a couple different versions. There's the British. So they think that the jack-o'-lantern is a soul denied access to both heaven and hell, and destined to wander the earth carrying a lighted wisp of straw. And that if you wear iron, it repels them. The Irish version is what we were talking about in the last podcast, scaring children to not do things. So this one, it targets children, but you have to wear a coat outside so you can disguise yourself as the jack-o'-lantern so it doesn't get you. And then there's an American version, which is when it passes, you have to hold your breath and close your eyes. And then it'll just pass you by. Yeah.
What?
Have you guys seen like original jack-o'-lanterns? They were carved out of turnips and are hideous.
They are terrifying.
They are
terrifying.
I'm gonna Google that right now.
Yeah,
You should.
Google.
They're terrifying.
I'm doing it. Why? Hold before I Google this. Am I gonna have nightmares?
No.
No.
Me.
Wondering if my human side is gonna grab a hold of this one and be like, new anxiety unlocked. Because I don't need any new anxieties. I'm already in the dating world, and it's, oh God, that is terrifying. Holy shit. Sharon just held one up. What happened?
You see their old costumes, like the costumes that they used to wear? Also terrifying.
Yeah.
And then I think it's either it's one of the Scandinavian countries, and it could be Iceland, but they would like go around knocking on doors, wearing a horse skull.
As you do.
And like basically refuse to leave until people gave them food or gifts.
Oh, that's really fascinating because that's a tradition that you'll find across a lot of different cultures. So there's one, it's a bird. I don't know if it's the robin boys. There's a particular day, Sunday in spring, where in Ireland, all the young boys will go knocking on doors and gathering those kinds of things as well. That's really interesting.
These jack-o'-lanterns are scaring the shit out of me. They look like Lord Voldemort's child.
Just look at this one. This one's cute.
It's so much nicer.
Like, look at these. That's terrifying. That looks like Lord Voldemort has either had a baby that was mummified or is mummified himself. There's no nose.
So
that's enough Google for today.
When the Irish immigrants came to America, they were doing it with turnips, and then they figured out that pumpkins were easier to carve. And that's how we get the jack-o'-lantern for Halloween.
Thank the gods for ingenuity. Go Irish.
I'm going to have to try to get a turnip this year, though. Like, accept it.
I humbly request pictures, or it never happened.
I will ship it to you.
No, nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that. God, that is terrifying.
Well, we are going to be new retreat event.
Yeah, retreat activities. Let's scare the shit out of each other with turnips. That sounds great.
Do we
Turnip
want ghosts outside of Andrea's shop?
Screw the nature hike to reconnect with ourselves and spirit and Gaia. We're gonna carve fucking turnips instead. Screw that.
Okay, so Kaylee, what's the purpose of carving the jack-o'-lantern?
Basically to confuse them.
Ah,
Define.
So to confuse the jack-o'-lantern that passes by.
Got it. The one where you're supposed to hold your breath with a jacket and
Mhm.
iron.
Oh,
An iron jacket.
Bitch to get on, but damn it, your soul is safe.
Yeah.
Do not go out in it in the rain.
that is too.
I cracked myself up with that one. That was so dumb. Cracked myself up.
I didn't mean to flip you off. I have a bobo.
Okay, so according to this book, it says that the Irish version was that it was about a mean old drunk, that even the devil himself hated him. And so when he finally died, the devil threw him back out of hell, and and now he's cursed to wander the world as an
Because
asshole.
what's worse than hell? Earth. That's what.
Right, no, can I please stay here in hell? Please?
No, take this shriveled turnip and wander on, little fella.
It's a turnip for you and a turnip for. He's like the Oprah of turnips.
Oh, so the Swedish people use potatoes.
oh,
I'm sure it's equally as horrifying.
I'm not looking that one up. I've seen what happens to potatoes
it's-
when they're left out too long. They smell awful and they attract all the flies and they, for some reason, liquefy. You ever done that? You left a sack of potatoes by accident somewhere and you're like, what is that horrible smell?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Potatoes.
That's nasty.
I think growing up in Idaho, at one point we made, like, we were talking about Egypt, and they gave us potatoes, and we had to carve them, and then like we had to wrap them like a mummy.
You
It's
did
Idaho.
that too? What? Yeah. It's an Idaho thing.
It really has to be the things you two come up with. And I'm like, okay,
Idaho.
Idaho.
we know.
5 years behind everyone else. I'm not the hoe here.
That's my job. No, I'm just kidding.
But
Just a horror for spirit. So apparently I lost all my filters today. That's fun. So my favorite one that I'm really excited about is Lilith. She is my favorite. I don't think I think she's a myth, not a folklore. But I love her. I love her like her origin story from, I think it was the Hebrews who had her still in their Kabbalah. And I know like a lot of Christians have written her completely out of the text and like totally stonewalled her name. But what a fucking redemption story. She starts out as the original woman, made from the same clay that Adam was made from. She is his equal in every single way. And God is like, hey, you two, make babies. And she's like, sure, if I can be on top. And Adam's like, the fuck? And I got questions about Adam if he's not ready to let a woman on top. I really do. I'm like, it's a red flag for me. I'm going to put that out there. That's a really, even my Libra ass cannot deny that level of red flag. Because, like, It's a good view, first of all. Second of all, lay back and let her do the work. I feel like that's every dude's dream. I mean, I know I like it when it's my turn. Just chill. Yeah. So, anywho, Adam refused to let her be on top. And she was like, well, fuck you. I'm not having sex with you. God forbid she absolutely had her own body and her own thoughts about her body. How dare she have body autonomy, the whore. So, back to it. That's right. This is Daddy Energy speaking. And if you have listened to the last podcast, you know what we're talking about. Andrea's in the house. So she's cast out of Eden because she won't play nice. She's not going to be the little woman who just does everything Adam says all the time. And she's completely and utterly cast out. Now, what happens after she's cast out depends on who you're listening to. In some cultures, she has become the queen of demons. And I'm like, the fucking redemption story here. If you can't, and she made her own demons too. She was like, I don't need no fucking man. I love that. And then they come out like little demon spawns. And I feel like that is beautiful. I really want one for myself. I have stuffy ones of them on my bed. They're super adorable. I'm like, these are the cutest thing ever. And as coming from somebody who has had my own babies, demon babies are far easier to take care of. They're very self-sufficient. It's great. They don't need diapers. It's fantastic. They just chill out on my bed and have fun. I know. I've had tea. A little bit of caffeine this afternoon. So anyhow, she goes on to be the queen of demons and essentially the fucking queen of hell. Which begs the question, where does Lucifer Morningstar come in? Like, how does his story come in where he's cast down and he's now like Satan, king of hell? What happens to her then? But then there's cautionary tales here too. If you don't do what the man says, you're going to be cast out and you're going to be absolutely, positively, for lack of a better word, demonized. I love the tale of Lilith and how modern society has stopped and said, hold on a second. Lilith stands for a woman who stands on her own 2 feet. A woman who has decided that she knows what she wants and goes for her pleasure first. And I mean, like, oh God, how awful of that, right?
Right.
Freaking love Lilith. She's my favorite. That's why I have the tattoo of her. I'm like, she got me through my divorce. I actually have a thing in my room. It's just this local, well, not local artist, but this artist on Etsy just had blank piece of paper with a perfect script that says, always Lilith, never Eve. And it's just this little picture and it's framed and it's right above my bed and I see it all the time because it reminds me to own my power. Own it. Be who I am and who I am in my own strength. Freaking love that story. I don't really care if she's the queen of demons. I mean, baby, get yours.
Exactly. I love that. I love the whole you don't get to write my story energy.
Mm-hmm. I love that she had the audacity to say no.
Right.
Especially during a time where, and I mean, if we're really, really honest, that story is probably a little over 2,000 years old. And in 2,000 years, we are just now getting to a point where women are encouraged and encourage each other to own their power. And
Yeah,
how beautiful.
There's enough power in that where when we say no, we have enough support to not be overtaken.
I love that. If there's no further comments on Lilith or questions about Lilith.
I just think it's funny that we're still really trying to push her out as well, though. Like the Christian side of things she's not a thing. Like I'm 33 and this is like in the last year I really started studying her because of a video game that came out. And then like part of the community, I'm starting to learn the true story behind her and stuff. So it's like we're still scared of her though. Like there's a whole portion of people that are scared of what a woman will do when she actually says no. And like And it's like the whole patriarchy thing, right? Like, oh
Mhm.
no, Lilith.
I feel like if dudes would just take a page and just read the room for a second, all they not you Spencer, but a lot of men, a lot of the more misogynistic men complain and complain and complain. Women are taking over, and now women have all these choices, and what are we going to do? And watch, when you need us, we won't be there. And it's just like this ugly tantrum rant. And I'm thinking, listen, you want to come home after work, sit on the couch, and do absolutely nothing. Women taking charge will allow you to do that. How about you just sit there on the couch and look pretty there, Dave? You'll be perfectly fine. You sit here, you take care of the kids, run the vacuum around every once in a while, and let me take care of it and pat him on the head. You're so cute. Thank you so much. Bye. And let us go do it. Stop having these little tantrums. See what happens. Just see if you like it. Your freaking ass imprinting the couch by the end of the day.
Truth.
I'm
Yeah,
fun
I mean,
today.
mic drop. There's nothing else to say to that.
No more argument. Not that I was arguing anyway, but agree.
Every once in a while, I think maybe we should get somebody on the podcast who is completely and utterly the opposite just to see what happens. But I'm not in the mood for that kind of argument right now. Sharon signaling to bring it on. She's like, let's do it. And I'm like, I don't really want to go somewhere damp and dark to find somebody like that. My hair can't handle the humidity.
The hair.
Not the hair. I took a shower today, so it looks good. And I'm like, stop it. That one. I don't know what that one's doing, but okay.
I think the archetype of Lilith is really interesting as well, because you see this sort of fallen, forgotten, misunderstood woman throughout several different mythologies. When you look at the Morrigan, she definitely can have that same vibe, right? We understand that she is, this warrior queen and this queen of sovereignty, but when it comes to it, if you Google it, the first thing you get is this the portent of death and battlefields and all of these negative things, and so it's very one-dimensional aspect of who she is. And we get this with a lot of the strong women. You think of Artemis as well. She kind of gets a snobby bad rap too, right? Like Apollo's over there, drug, sex, and rock and roll, and Artemis is alone in the woods being a pretentious woman, not letting any men near, right? So we see it over and over and over again. And it's really interesting how it builds together and creates this perspective with multiple facets.
Completely agree. All the different, this is something that has been on my mind lately because I went to the hardware store and I bought a crowbar. I needed a longer crowbar. The one I have is only like 18 inches, and I'm removing the last layer of ceiling. And I'm tired of being at the top of a ladder. It makes me rickety, and I'm like, I just wanted a bigger crowbar. So I bought the biggest crowbar they have. It's 30 inches. It's really not that impressive. I'm like, okay, but this will do. And I got some new eye protection because I didn't like the ones I had. They were like swimming goggles and they kept fogging up. And I was like, I can't do this. So I put the two items on the counter. I am dressed like I'm demolishing a house. I do not look cute. My hair's in, I'm like, I had a hat on, everything. I'm dirty because it was mid project that I was like, fuck this. I can't fucking do it anymore. I got mad and I was like, I know we're all shocked that I got pissy. And I put it on the counter and I purposely avoid this one guy because he is already shown himself to be pretty fucking misogynistic. And like, he's like, smile. He's that kind of guy. He's like, why don't you just smile? And I threatened him last time, actually. It wasn't very nice of me, but I definitely was like, I had the flu, my kids had the flu, and I had a fucking plumbing issue. So I was walking, he was helping me with the plumbing stuff. I was walking toward the checkout and he goes, why don't you just smile? I'm sure it's not all that bad. And I stopped and I can't remember his name, honestly, which is probably best. But I said, if you ever tell me to smile again, I will turn around and punch you in the face. And then I kept walking to the register and I checked out like nothing happened. Like I set my boundaries. Granted, they were violent and I'm not super proud of myself, but I had the flu, kids had the flu, and we had a plumbing emergency. You can imagine I was not in a good mood. And I literally had told him that. He's like, what's the matter? You seem upset. And I was like, well, I'm really not feeling well. I had a mask on. Like, I'm really not feeling well. My kids are not feeling well. I explained all of it. And then for him to have the audacity to be like, smile. Like, no, I'm not going to fucking smile. You want to smile? You go fucking smile. You smile. How about that? You smile. You smile for both of us. Okay? Apparently a fucking smile fixes everything, but I digress. Same dude a year later. I put the stuff down on the counter and he leaves his register to come over and stand behind the dude who's checking me out. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this with you right now. I'm trying to avoid eye contact because, again, I'm already pissy because the first fucking crowbar wouldn't work. His eyebrows go up and he starts like laughing to himself and giggling to himself. And he's smirking to himself and looking at me like I'm this little lady. And I'm not little. I'm not a small woman. And I'm ignoring the shit out of him. And I reached for the crowbar twice, but I put it back down. I was like, nope. I'm not going to jail. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to jail. Put the crowbar down. And then he goes, home repair. It's Abishan. Why do you think anyone's here? It's not because my home is perfect and in immaculate condition. I'm covered in dust and horsehair plaster. I am dirty. Like, and I just looked at him and then looked away like he didn't exist. So I was like, I'm not fucking playing this game with you. And I waited until the guy handed me my receipt before I grabbed the crowbar and turned and whipped it right out of the store. Because I was like, I'm going to grab this and this is 30 inches of crowbar. I can reach you. Why are you poking the fucking bear? But it's right up there with what Jenny was saying. Apollo gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. Any man can walk in that store and buy exactly what I bought and just be treated with respect and dignity. But then we have the being Artemis, who just wants to be who she is. We have the being Aphrodite, who just wants to love herself and be all about that beautiful, beautiful inner beauty, self-love, and show the world how she feels because she feels good in it. And then we have Hera, who's tired of her fucking cheating husband, who just wants to be respected and honored in her marriage as she is expected to respect and honor her husband. And they're treated like shit. While the dudes just get to go off and be dudes. Even Hermes, who's a little on the side, is totally and utterly respected. They don't give a flying fart in space. They're just like, oh, it's just Hermes being Hermes. But Hera can't have a tantrum because her husband is a freaking asshole and sticks it wherever he wants to. He'll pretend to be a goddamn swan to get it in. Like, are you shitting me right now?
Well, and what's really interesting, and you posted this on Instagram today, that said you've never had to unscrew somebody else's light bulb in order to shine. Hera never went at Aphrodite. She never took it out on her. This was not woman against woman. This was, honey, you are who you are. You are the goddess of fertility, beauty, and romance. It is your nature. I'm not punishing you for your nature. It's my husband who can't keep his penis in his pants. We're going to have some problems with.
Yep. Hera went for the problem.
Exactly.
I fucking love Hera, but look how demonized she is. We have folklore of Zeus making children even of his own regard. Like it was just his will. And suddenly, like, I think it was like Pegasus or something amazing was brought from him just from his will. And Hera's like, oh, cool, I'm going to try the same thing. And what does she make? Fucking Hephaestus.
Yeah.
Who's like what was he? Wasn't he like one-eyed and hideous in whatever story you look at?
Yeah.
Every one of her children born of her own will were disgusting.
Mm-hmm. And cast out.
Yeah, and then we have more examples of women can't do it as well as men can, and I'm like, y'all have had a revolt 2,000 years in the making.
Yeah, because Athena was a thought from Zeus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he could think her into existence. Now, Hephaestus is He's incredibly talented and skilled and smart and all of the things, but because he didn't look like the rest of them. And so what we forget is like there's morals in these. There's codes of ethics in this. And we skip over, I feel like we skip over and we romanticize and just laugh it off. Like you said, oh, well, that's Hercules being Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
No. Kaylee, what's that face for?
Me?
No, the other Kaylee. That one.
Spicy Andrea.
Don't put that back around on me.
It was
No, but
funny.
I agree though. Like a lot of female, I'll say characters, like mythological characters. A lot of female mythological characters are painted in the shittiest light. Because why? Because men are telling the story. Men are controlling the narrative and using like what was actually like empowerment and talent and anything like that for a woman. Like they'd be like, see, this is why you don't do that. This is why you don't do that. And that's why you have to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
At all times.
At all times. Wipe my ass, please. Okay, anyways, I'm done.
See, it's not just me.
No,
one thing I do.
Sorry.
One thing I do like is recently in media, they are trying to take that stereotype and like switch it though. Like with the movie with Maleficent,
Mm-hmm.
like how she was always a villain. Like ever since I was little, she was a villain, until the last couple of years when her movies came out, and it was like there's actually a reason she's a villain, right? And it's a good reason, and she's got power behind it and stuff. So I kind of like that there is a notice that we are trying to move away from that
Mm-hmm.
and giving power to women now. It's only a few thousand years late, right?
Better late than never, though, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
I gotta say, it is late. You're right, but I'd rather it be late than never happen at all, and I'd rather be here during this amazing time in human evolution to watch it happen. But
Right.
what Spencer's saying, it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings right now. Narcissists never want to talk about what led up to you becoming the villain in their story. They just want to talk about you being the villain.
Right.
And one of my exes is like that. He'll be like, oh, well, you did this and that. And I'm like, yes, because I told you 20 times to leave me alone. You did not. You followed me from room to room. And I gave you at least 4 warnings that if you don't stop, this is what is going to happen. And when that happened, you were shocked. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you poke the bear?
Like,
Go ahead,
Go
Jenny.
ahead. No, I just am dumbfounded that the lack of like perspective of consequences. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of folklore and mythology and all of it is all stories of people just not listening. Like, and it's always a man. Like, let's be honest. I'm like sitting here trying to think of a story where a woman messed up. I can't. I can't. Like, my examples for today are about men messing up.
And like the story of Medusa. We've had that she was the Gorgon for so long, and she was just awful. where she just turned everybody into stone all the time. She was just this beast born, and nobody talked about how she got there until recently. And then when we all heard how she got there, we all went, fucking Poseidon's a dick. Asshole. Somebody needs to bring up charges. But considering his brother is like the king of all, not surprised that got swept under the rug. It's probably like, brother, don't do that again. Or if you do, don't let the humans find out. Who else has a story that they love in folklore and mythology? And ooh, Kaylee.
I know that, like, this is my niche. Like, I love this shit. So, the Kelpie. The Kelpie.
Can you use that in a sentence? Kelpie?
Don't go near the water or the Kelpie will get you.
Ah, okay.
Don't touch it either.
No, don't try to ride it either, because it appears as a horse.
Oh.
Peacefully grazing by the water, and then somebody will come by and be like, wow, this is a really nice horse. I think I'm gonna ride it, and it will take you into the water, drown you, and eat you.
Oh.
Yep.
Holy shit. Okay, so I thought Kelpies were like little cute kelp creatures, like kelp, you know? I thought they were similar to Selkies.
Yeah, kinda. Except Silkies don't try to murder you
And eat you.
and eat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when she started saying don't ride them, that's where I was like, I don't know what Kelpies are. Never mind. Quiet now.
So
Well, my thought went to Zeus. I'm like, Zeus is gonna try it.
Lilith will not be found near the Kelpies.
So, the British Isles, Ireland, Scotland all had their form of, I think it's called what is it? Let me consult the book. It is okay. Bear with me. It's Phooka. Fuka.
Mhm.
Fuka. Okay. Just so that everybody knows I wasn't trying to say anything fuck else.
Say the dirty words.
Yeah.
That she follows with the dirty words.
Yeah. And then in Greece had one as well. But they were more like a mer horse. So like top half horse, bottom half mermaid, fish. And that was called the hippocampus.
Yes.
Mhm. Like the brain part.
Yep.
Yep, they were messengers of Poseidon. So they had, because all horses have the ability to transcend realms, so they would be able to bring messages to and from Poseidon's palace, which is really cool.
I wonder if that's why they named that section of the brain the hippocampus, because its major role is learning and memory.
Oh, ooh, Googling.
I feel like I should know this, but I don't.
I like brain structure though, but I was pre-med for a while.
Also, so the Kelpies, all of
Yes.
these, like the Fuka and the Kelpies, they can all speak any human language. And
Ooh.
sometimes the one from Scotland and Ireland will appear as a shaggy old man.
Why?
So when you go to help him, he'll just chuck you into the water and then drown you and eat you.
Oh, son of a bitch. I thought it was going to have like a sparkly side.
No.
You know, when you go help him, maybe he'll owe you a favor or something for being a good human being.
It's like, hey, come help me. Yeet.
My rickety old body.
Nom nom.
I mean, yes, and so the puka are mercurial, right? Like if they want to drown you because it's fun that day, great. But if you look like you need help and have a modicum of, decent morality, then maybe I'll still trick you a little bit, but I'll also help you in the end.
Aw, got a feel good story. Still, the
I
fuck? What
love
happened to my
that
ex?
folklore seems to be a lot about is those cautionary tales, right? The mythology is the overarching structure and of the belief system. So your archetypes, how the world around you works, right? How we get the sun across the sky, how the oceans move, how the seasons change. That's your mythology, right? That's your overarching structure of belief. And then your folklore is the colloquialisms. It's the explaining of the everyday experience around you. If somebody keeps drowning in this pond, then it's the kelpie snatches them away. If the young women keep going missing, it's the kelpie that snatched them, and now they're living in their underwater home. If women leave their husbands, it's because the selkie found her skin again and was able to transform and leave. And so the folklore tends to be the explanation of the everyday life, where the mythology is the understanding of the natural world around us.
Mm.
And it's really fascinating how you can take this one thing and you'll find it everywhere, which sometimes I wonder, does that mean it's the same exact thing?
Like the Seven Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Seven Sisters. I relate to that on a level that makes me like really want to cry and be part of it, and it hits me viscerally.
Same.
Yeah,
I have a
because the
picture of the
Seven
Seven Sisters in my office and in my hallway.
need to see.
Ladies.
I'm gonna need you to put that on Insta, please, for me.
Okay.
The Seven Sisters is such a fascinating story because it wasn't until the invention of Facebook, of all things, that all of these ancient indigenous peoples all over the world found that they had a very similar tale. That they all had the tale of the Seven Sisters in their ancient folklore and mythology. I know, I get goosebumps. I have super goosebumps just talking about it right now. And I'm like, yeesh.
Yep, same.
So I had a QHHT session to try to explain where that came from for me and why I felt it that way. Now, what came up in that session was that I was one of them, but my human side is like, that might be delusions of grandeur. We'll see. It's neither here nor there in this life. It really doesn't matter. But thinking about it, the fact that we had these 7 star beings that came to Earth in a great big crash, like each one left a crater behind when they landed, without a ship, without anything. There were just these tall, glorious, beautiful women, and the men of the tribes would try to chase them, especially the Maori. The Maori have an extensive amount of stories about their time and interaction with the Seven Sisters. I'm like erupting in chills all over. I'm trying to stay cool and I can't. I'm going to get really excited and I'm going to start bouncing again. I'm totally going to start stimming. Like it's just my ADHD is like, I love this. Dopamine, all of it. I know. Give it. The Maori people have these beautiful, like really intact stories that have been passed down and kept true. They haven't played the telephone game. They have kept it in their art and it's interwoven so that the story couldn't play the telephone game. So it was right there in cave drawings, in their art, in the sand, in the stone, in clothing. So it's fucking beautiful. So the story goes that these 7 sisters came down to all of the indigenous peoples, all of the original peoples all over the world. And obviously this is the time where Homo erectus, Homo sapien sapien, and Neanderthals were all coming together as one human being and creating Homo sapien. This is where they imparted their knowledge, their DNA to the people. Now, we've had countless channels, especially in the last 30, 40 years. Wait, 50 years since this. Oh shit, the 70s were 50 years ago. Oh my God. That just hurt. I know. So I remember hearing about this. Like I'm a child of the 80s, and I remember reading books that were written in the 80s about this, about star people coming down, giving humans their DNA. But as the DNA was diluted, humans had less and less and less of the abilities that the original hybrids had. Still some of it. And it's so diluted now that it just comes across bare minimum as a spiritual connection. That's why we all have a spiritual connection. It's been so spread out from those original peoples that we all have that now. Oh, Sharon has something to add. Sharon keeps saying. Sharon says she has to insert a question here. That Seven Sisters thing and the Pleiades go hand in hand. Yes, that's where they came from. She said when she was looking at her original source story, she felt like she felt like she was in a place that poured out from the stars. That you can be a place. She's wondering if that's a thing. That you can be an actual place that pours out from the stars. Yes, especially if you're in a civilization that is one with their planet. Like humans are trying to go toward. Oh, Jenny. Kaylee, you're muted.
Yeah. So during one of my channelings the other day that was like triggered by what Carlene had said, they gave me the name. They gave me a name. I'll spell it in the chat. But it had like so it's ATLTIA. And so I was like, what is this word? And they specifically gave me this word, spelling and all. And so I was trying to pronounce it like out loud, and then they're like, no. And they gave me one of these, like accent. It's like a U.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we had to Google it and figure out what the fuck that was. And it goes above the first A. So it's Atlatia. Or Atlatia? Atlatia.
I was going to say the first one.
That sounds real familiar. And it sounds real close to Atlantis. And so I Googled it. It was the fucking continent. That's what they called the continent that Atlantis and Lemuria were on.
I love when shit like that comes together. I fucking love the way spirit works. This is so much fun. Tell me this isn't so much fun.
I literally, like, okay, it's in my notes. Because I was like, what in the fuck is this word? It's right there. And that's how they told me to spell it. ATLATIA. Atlatia. But with this, they gave me that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, was that my name? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, is that my name? And they're like, no. And I was like, what the fuck is this then? And so if a place could be like she was saying, like a place could be you, that would also be my name.
When you have that highness, when you have that high level of consciousness, you become one with everything around you, including the land you're on. And it could have been also, just, devil's advocate here. What if your name, it was part of the whole of your name, which referred back to the land you were from? Like we have last names and middle names. And like Hispanic people have long names. The Spanish people have very long names because it reverts back to ancestry. I feel like it wasn't the entirety of the name. It was part of the line of the name. that referenced you belonging to that land belonging to you.
That makes
Yeah, right? Like your name of the people of the place.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well,
like how they would introduce people, like the Duke of Norfolk, and like
yeah.
when they would walk into a room, so it would be like, you are this person, but you are also the place you are from.
Mm-hmm.
And in is it okay to speak about the channeling, the private channeling you did?
Yeah. Yes, we
Okay.
talked about it a little yesterday.
Okay, so on the 22nd, private channeling with a few of us, and one being came through and spoke of the earth as a person. They said we used to walk together. So that to me is another layer of affirmation that you can be a place, because we've had reference of someone speaking about the earth in her divinity in a corporeal sense, but also the rock, this massive floating rock hurtling through time and space.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, right. Sharon did the. She's 100% right. My camera is having focusing issues.
So that makes sense on why they're like yes and no.
Yeah.
It's
When they start to say stuff like that, just like teacher mode for 2 seconds here, I promise I won't stay in it, is when I say to them, like you asked, is that my name? Yes. And they're kind of slow with it, and like, yeah. And they're like, is that my name? No. Okay, then I need to start looking at what name means to them. That's how I got there.
I'm writing it
I'm like, well, okay. Like if you're giving somebody a yes and a no, that's where I stop and go, okay, what is the yes and the no here? And sometimes they'll say it's the name, and they'll highlight name in the sentence or question. I'll go, okay, so how do you see this as the name, and how does this refer back to being part of the name? Teacher mode over.
Yeah, but I wrote it down though, because it went on it, like this channel was like forever and ever long.
Mm-hmm.
What's crazy though is like when they were like telling me the information, my handwriting is different from when they were speaking directly to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can see it. Like my handwriting is messy anyways, but like you can see it. But then down here is where they were speaking directly to me. How like scribbly that got.
So this happened to me the other day on a live. There's my handwriting at the top, and it was slightly messy because I was excited, but look at how it changes. I'm not even on the lines on half of it. I'm like between the lines on so much of it.
It gets larger and more spaced out. There's more room in the movement.
That's exactly how I feel, is I want to write bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm seeing it too.
Yeah. That's a really good insight into how to look at and interpret the mythology and the folklore and your dreams and things like that. Something comes along and you're like, okay, but what does that mean to you? What is this word in your context that you're trying to deliver it? And it adds that sort of nuance that we miss over this giant thousands of years games of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
This is really interesting to me, like looking at it that way. Like growing up in Christianity, we have many books that we have to read, right? And we know that a lot of it is translated from a human side of things, like this is what it means. And so there's so many times where they're like, well, the Bible says this, and that's what it has to mean because that's what it is. But like, how many times have we actually gone and been like, well, what did it mean at that point, right? And I like, I'm looking back and being like, oh, I wonder if there was a lot more truth into what I was reading if I wasn't looking at it from a human side, or if I would have been able to tap into this other side of saying, hey, is this what you meant? Or was there something else to this story in the Bible?
Absolutely, because you'll have some creators, some students of theology. There's a guy on TikTok I absolutely love, and he dissects the book of Revelation in the Bible, just in context alone. And it's really fascinating when you add cultural perspective to what you're reading. And it goes for your folklore and your mythology as well. Like the cultural context doesn't necessarily mean the same thing in different regions. The point may be the same, but the importance of the details change.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that the importance of the details change because they matter. If you have a sentence like, I didn't do that, 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 every single one of them has a different meaning. Where's the emphasis? And I mean, how many times do we have things that get lost in translation over text?
All the time.
I am a terrible texter. Horrible.
Mm.
I'm clipped and I'm quick and I have to add 5 million emojis just to show people that I'm not mad.
Same. I was like, thank the gods for emojis, because
For real.
Y'all, do you realize that we got to witness the evolution of the English language with emojis?
Mm-hmm. This is an amazing time to be alive.
It really is.
Think about everything that's happened in the last 50 years. Everything has been so status quo for like 50, and then the last 50 years come on. For what, like 3, 4, 500 years, everything has been the same. And now all of a sudden.
Yeah. And it's one after
Morgan.
the other after the other.
Morgan, I miss T9 texting. I fucking don't.
I do not at all.
But now
do.
that we have that skill, it's a secret code Gen Z doesn't know about.
That's funny.
Can I go back a few seconds real quick? Because the story I was going to talk about is like Icarus and Daedalus.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, and that's a very well-known story, right? We all know, like, they built the wings to escape, and Daedalus warns Icarus not to fly too close to the sun, and then he does, and he falls. And a lot of growing up, when I heard that story, it was always focused on Icarus. And I'm like, it was always like, oh, I need to listen to those above me, those in power. I need to listen to them, or else, like, they know the truth, and if I don't listen, I will fall to the water, fall to my death, kind of a thing, right? Well, there's a band named Thrice, and they actually did a song about it, and it's from the viewpoint of Daedalus and how he mourns it afterwards, and he was like, I'm so sorry I failed you, and like I'm hanging up my own wings. I'm not going to go back to that life, that kind of stuff. And it was such a different twist on the story that I'm like, oh. And I don't think I realized it until just the last 5 years when I first heard it. And like, as a parent, like, that's a total different story when you have that experience, or the kids to go off of, right? And so it was actually really interesting. We're sitting there talking about like how the context changes, and going back and like looking over some of these mythologies and these folklore, like, oh, there's a whole different story to it now that I'm wiser or have different life experiences.
That's been one of my favorite stories, because it's, don't fly too close to the sun. How dare you reach for glory? Especially when your elders, who obviously know better than you, are telling you not to. But think about how much that does not transmute and does not translate to today. How much our elders know nothing about today. Nothing about a modern life.
I work customer service.
Well,
I'm aware of the older generation.
Oh, I hear you. My grandparents refused to get a computer or a cell phone. It blew them away when I showed them the amount of pictures I had of the children on my cell phone and that I work from my cell phone. My grandfather was just, well, I mean, in his eyes, all he sees is people like in their phone all day long. He's like, fucking people on their phone, fucking millennials. And I'm like, right? Fucking millennials. I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, Grandpa, get him.
Well, and all Daedalus had to do was listen and help. And maybe together, Icarus wouldn't have fallen. Look, I know, son, this is what you want to do. I know that this wax is going to melt. So together, let's find something that won't melt. Together, how can I support you to accomplish this goal that you have set forward instead of standing back and finger wagging? Look where we are.
Mm-hmm. It goes right back to don't do that. Doesn't work. Don't do that.
My brain doesn't process negative. So if you tell me don't do that, that is the only thing I can think about.
What if Icarus was ADD? ADHD. I thrive on competition. You tell me I can't do anything, I have made a company. Ta-da! Fuck you.
I've made it my whole identity.
I have.
I know.
When I wanted to make Sweet Release Healing, one of the driving forces in my life, someone said, I don't think that this is going to work. I don't think that you should do this. Like a psychic, you want to help people do their own gifts. Like, are you sure? And I was like, fucking bet. Exactly. Hold my kombucha. Fuck you. I'm fucking doing this.
I'm the same way though. I cannot stand people telling me you can't do that or that's not a good idea. Like, why are you shitting on my dreams? Like, what is in it for you if you make me feel like shit about something I'm excited about? So it makes me want to do it with every ounce of my being. Mm-hmm. Just like or it's the same thing too as like when somebody's like, I should fucking what? Start that sentence again, because it immediately pisses me off when they're telling me you should do this. Now I don't want to.
Smile.
Now I don't fucking want to.
How many times I've said maybe you should do that, and I should keep doing what I'm doing because I'm the one in my shoes. I know what this day looked like and how I felt through it. So maybe you should keep your shoulds.
I fucking hate the should.
I am a fan of the fallacy of shoulds. There's a whole philosophical, sect, I guess, like little section. I learned this in college. The fallacy of shoulds. That even the word should evokes such a negative response in ourselves when we say it to us and to others, that it does not belong in modern language any longer.
I told Sharon this last night. I had a professor that said, stop shitting all over yourself.
T-shirt. But it's true. And it's really
like, stop shitting all over yourself. And then Spencer's professor. Quoted it.
I think it's just kind of funny though, because I'm sitting here and you guys are all like, they said I couldn't do this, so watch. And I'm like, how many great things have probably ended from a hold my beer conversation like that? Like, how many good things in history has probably just been like, nope, F you, I'm doing it. And then we have some like cool advancement in technology or medicine. Because
the airplane,
yeah.
The airplane, they're like, oh, you're crazy. That's crazy. You don't belong in the sky. We don't belong in the sky. And they're like, yeah, well, fuck off. I'm going to build it and I'm going to do it. And they did.
Right.
And now we travel. Yeah. And now we're buying tickets to go to New Hampshire
And I go for the retreat. How excited are we all for that? I'm really excited for that.
I'm excited.
I do have a question that I wanted to ask tonight. So we believe in a lot of different types of mythologies, and we know like the definition ish of mythology. But at what point does a belief or a religion or something turn into a mythology, and can we then classify Christianity as a mythology? Because I
Yeah.
have heard people say Christian mythology, and I know this is going to ruffle some feathers because at that point we compare it to Greek mythology, which we believe Greek mythology to be dead.
But they felt it so fervently.
But
What?
they worshipped. It was a lifestyle, it was a culture, right? Yet it's the exact same thing as Christianity. So why, like,
The
and at
only
what point does it hit mythology, though?
the only reason that it hasn't hit mythology is because it's been mainstream for so long. It's
Right.
been
Well, then,
accepted widely, and where there were certain sects, like the Greeks, they believed in Greek mythology, and Roman is really close to Greek. It's kind of the same thing, just but like these same things, but those belief systems died out. Christianity is the only one that's held for up until this point, because I don't think it's not the oldest religion that's
No,
still in practice today, but it
absolutely not.
is the most widely accepted. And okay, so I think personally that the reason it has held so strong and spread so widely is that societal control, and then that's just how we are used to having structure in our lives based on that, if that makes sense. Okay.
okay.
But I mean honestly, like if you're, it's because it's a recent development in relativity to like human existence. It's a recent belief system. I mean, probably someday, thousands of years in the future, it probably will become mythology.
So you're saying time is an aspect to the definition of a mythology?
Yeah. And then how strong that belief system holds and how widely accepted and popularized it is.
Perspective has a large portion to play in it because we look now at Buddhism as a mythology. Even though 1.2 billion people currently practice the religion of Buddhism, 1.9 million people practice the mythology of Islam. It's to everyone not Christian, Christianity is a mythology. It's the perspective looking in. Now there's distance, time, and space, right? Which of particular pantheons, but when you look at the definition of a mythology, it absolutely applies to Christianity in its current form, currently in the present. It just depends on what side of the lens you look through, whether you call it your religious and your belief system, or whether you call it a systematic structure of beliefs that explain the natural world around you. It's no different than Apollo driving the sun chariot or the sun bus across the sky.
Mm-hmm. In definition, religion is the same as mythology. It's just how much time has passed.
Yeah, yeah, and it usually includes like supernatural and preternatural beings.
Yep.
That sort of an aspect as well.
Also, most religions kind of piggyback off of each other. There's a lot of stories that you find elsewhere. So if we're looking at I'm going to piss people off. But if we're looking at Christianity, it's kind of a mashup of like, oh, this idea, we could take this and teach this lesson. We could take this and teach this lesson. And we can take this and teach this lesson. And we kind of just we just changed the names in the story. We're recycling. I'm afraid that I'm going to piss so many people off.
So I think this is a great place to recognize that we are at our hour.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yep, that happened fast, I know. But you can catch us again on the next episode of After Dark, where we do take the filters off. And if you are easily offended or upset at things that people say with their own belief systems, you should probably give the next one a skip. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Can I address the listeners real fast?
Sure.
I don't shit on your belief. It's beautiful. This is just my personal opinion on it. So I'm sorry if I offended you.
Kaylee's opinions do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sweet Release Healing. No, that's what we do. We're addressing things and we're looking at it. It's perfectly fine. And I don't think that you did anything that's out of bounds.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be interesting to continue this conversation over into After Dark. Thank you again, Kaylee, Spencer, Jenny, Sharon, and Morgan. I love talking to you guys. And thank you for listening to Sweet Release Healing's Roundtable. Mwah! Love you.